Let me read a little bit before starting the discussion. He writes, Chopin proposes, supposes, insinuates, seduces, persuades. He almost never asserts. And the more reticent his thought becomes, the better do we listen to it. I have in mind that confessional tone which Laforgue praised in Baudelaire. Assertion here is associated with forcefulness. When you are an agent of something, when you are, you can use the metaphor of a salesman, a salesperson. If you're the salesperson of something, you bring yourself into the foreground and you become the force, the agent that is pushing this thing forward, pushing whatever it is that you want to argue in favor of this thing. It could be music, it could be philosophy, it could be an idea. You will come in and assert it, and by asserting it, you don't allow the thing itself to speak for itself. Okay, so the work that I'm talking about in this video briefly is the Notes on Chopin, originally published in 1938. The publication of the book includes not only the Notes on Chopin, but a collection of journal entries by André Gide related to music, other composers, some cultural reflections related to also Chopin directly or indirectly. The translation to English, I should add, was done by Bernard Frechtman. Thanks to Bernard, we can read it in English, and the publisher is Philosophical Library. Okay, so when I was talking about Milan Kundera's novel Life is Elsewhere, I was, for whatever reason, I was drawn to the notebooks of André Walter written by André Gide. And in retrospect, I realized that what drew me into those two books together, drew me to put the two books together side by side, was a kind of a complementarity. So Kundera gives us a portrayal of a poetic life, and another portrayal, which is more immersive and more intimate, is given to us by André Gide in the notebooks of André Walter. And I really like that movement back and forth, a more distant view provided by Kundera and a more intimate view provided by, relatively speaking, more intimate view provided by Gide. And now, more recently, that I've talked about another book by Kundera, Slowness, I found myself again drawn to Gide, this time to the Notes on Chopin, because they are connected to the aesthetics of slowness, the aesthetics of non-forcefulness, and we can even talk about the aesthetics of silence or reticence, as this passage I just read pointed to. Don't worry if you're not as familiar with classical music. This work can be enjoyed, and it is still important. You can still benefit from it, even if you're not as familiar with classical music in general and the compositions of Chopin in particular. In fact, you can use this little book as your introduction to Chopin. While you're reading it, maybe you can play the preludes in the background. Because the book is as much about Gide and his own philosophical aesthetic sensibilities. And it is an aesthetics that can only come from an incredibly sensitive person, which means that you can read this book as a demonstration of human sensitivity in general, and how that sensitivity could be reflected in something like musical appreciation, in how Gide expresses his disagreements with how other people are interpreting Chopin, how he expresses his dissatisfaction, unhappiness, and they're not getting him right. As he's doing that, he's indirectly expressing himself, in addition to giving us his understanding of Chopin. I'm really impressed by how he really brings Chopin into the foreground. He really makes it all about him. He doesn't make it about himself. He doesn't bring himself narcissistically into the foreground, saying to us, look at me, I'm so special, look at my correct understanding of this great composer. It's me and my buddy Chopin, we are so great, we are so amazing. Because you and I live in a culture, in a different culture, that is very strongly a culture of narcissism. Because of this narcissism, even when we come to YouTube and we listen to and we do these videos on people that we love, writers that we love, it's very difficult for us to take ourselves out of the equation or push ourselves into the margins and make it really about André Gide, make it about Milan Kundera and how these writers are great. It's not about how I am great. But this is something that I think we can be mindful of, the practice of not making it about me, and instead trying as much as we can to make it about this person that we are showing admiration about this person, our admiration of this person, why this author, why these ideas are worthy of consideration. So that's another reason why I think a work like this is important. It's the task of criticism, is to draw our attention in the right way, in an educated way, train our attention in relation to the works of art. So I was talking about Gide's understanding of Chopin. Intimately tied to his understanding is the inherent difficulty of understanding and interpreting Chopin's style of expression. And it's a style that states something, states a musical idea, states a lyrical, poetic expression without force, with something akin to hesitation, with something akin to doubt. And that doubt, that hesitation is a necessary condition, as I said before, for the kind of expression that he's aiming at. It allows the demonstration of discovery. So Gide tells us that Chopin, the way he intends his music to be played, has to do with showing his process of discovery, showing how he stumbles upon an idea, showing that moment of delight in the middle of the process where he's surprised as he stumbles upon the musical idea, and he creates that experience of stumbling upon something. So that doing that right, doing justice to that, requires the person performing the piece to also show a great deal of restraint. Let's read a little bit more from the book. Gide writes, "I feel that this note is tender. I already feel that this note is tender. Do I need you to yell it at me? So let its strangeness bewilder me all by itself. Don't lend a helping hand. If you do, it's because you take me for a fool. And if I'm not one, then you are. I find this subtle slowness likewise intolerable in the theater, when the actor pauses briefly to allow the audience's admiration and its applause to take form." It's about, again, not forcing. It's about letting the object that is being expressed do most of the work. And that is, in fact, what Gide is doing in relation to Chopin. It's incredible. People who talk about Chopin, they usually can't resist talking about some biographical information, even though they want to eventually talk about music, but they can't help themselves. They have to talk about Chopin's health. They have to talk about his some of the failures of his relationships. And that is what Gide does not do at all. He doesn't talk about Chopin's health, as far as I remember, anywhere in his notes on Chopin. He's showing us how to pay attention in the right way, in a way that is not distracted. Of course, you can pay attention to an author without knowing that you're distracted. You're actually not paying attention to the author as a literary creator, as an artist. But you're paying attention in a way that is more about mundane gossips than the artistic works. And that's what Gide is kind of enacting in these notes. He's doing it really purely. And that, again, I think has to do with not participating in any culture of narcissism. There's a really interesting observation somewhere in the notes about how there's a piece by Chopin that has to be performed slowly. But musicians who perform it, they want to demonstrate that they can, for technical reasons, to show off their technical skills, they need to demonstrate that they can perform it at a higher speed. And in fact, the musical expression itself might benefit from that expressed ability, that I can speed up right now, but I'm not. I'm choosing not to. And Gide says that most of the people performing this piece end up speeding up because that is their tradition. The tradition says, display your skills. You've practiced, so show it. But again, it's like the restraint is more important. It's more important to control yourself and let the music be what it is. Take yourself out as this agent, as the performer, as a messenger, as the person who is advocating. So to advocate in the right way for someone like Chopin demands an incredible amount of self-restraint. And how can we apply this to other areas of our lives? That's up to you. Up to you to decide. Anyways, if you have read this book by André Gide, I would love to hear from you, hear what you think. If you have any thoughts, comments on this video, let me know. I would love to get your feedback. Otherwise, take care, and I will speak with you in future videos.